Hello everyone and welcome back to my development diary thing. I don't fucking know what I called it. Um uh for those of you who missed the first episode, if you're watching this from the thread these are all in, just scroll up to the top of the first page. But in the meantime, my name is Basilisk and I am the narrator for Central and Western Idalos. Um with that said, let's get into it. Right, okay. Sorry, I'm a little spaced out here. Now, before we get into the main part of the stuff, I'm going to do the same kind of thing I did last time, and talk about some of the stuff we've been doing that we've been doing as a group that isn't quite finished enough at this moment to make it into any of our vlogs, or just isn't, or just isn't something, is just something I want to cover for a bit before getting into the main portion. Anyways, first off, at the time of this writing, the city of Ivorian, which is the one of the two starter cities that I talked about at the beginning of my last vlog, has its main information page and its military and its militia page up. Jade and Aura were a lot of help getting that up, and between us we got between the three of us we got both of those pages up, and hopefully all of you watching this that have come to play in those cities can understand things pretty clearly and are having a lot of fun doing so. Yeah. Since Ivorian isn't actually finished yet, I mean, we still gotta do, at this time of writing, we still gotta do, put up NPCs and shops and shit like that. At this point, I'm not gonna go into full detail about it. I'll probably save that for another, vlog down the road, probably next week. But other than that, since my last vlog, we have gotten a lot more Immortals up, and we've started working on the 8, on the original 8. For more information on the original 8 and Immortals not made by me, go check out Jade's blog. First vlog has information on the original 8, and Aura's second vlog has information on the Immortal known as Audrey. In addition, her first vlog also talks about the Nayrik, and just check out their vlogs. They're all really good, and they talk about a lot of stuff that won't be covered at all in mine, okay? Now then, before I jump into the first segment, one more thing I want to cover yet at this point is we've also started getting some of the skills up, and the terms of use have gone up. Now, Aura, maybe talking with Jade, I'm not sure, probably, did most of the work for did pretty much put up the terms of service. I just provide some feedback. That's not my specialty or area of expertise. They can have it. I don't want it. The terms of service were discussed as they were being put up, and we all agreed on them completely. So, now, okay, one more thing on that. The one thing I want to mention specifically, actually, is the moderator section. It's why I pretty much brought them up. The rules for the moderators. Now, most users won't see those, but the moderators, I don't think they will. Maybe they will. But most moderators... the moderators on trials have specific rules they have to follow. Now, I've been on other sites where the moderators aren't given any kind of specific rules. They're allowed to do things like approve their own characters and shit. And for all three of us, this kind of crap has caused problems for us. So when we were setting that up, we all agreed that we wanted to make sure there were firm rules in place for the moderators. Now, that said, setting that aside, one bit about skills, and then I'm getting into the stuff that I'm sure you're all actually here to watch. The skills, you'll probably notice, don't have quite the same, how to put this, don't have quite the same, I guess, life in them that the races, the immortals, the cities all do. Part of that is we wanted all the skills to be, or I at least, the ones I'm writing, I wanted them all to be fairly easy to understand. You could, without having to learn a new thing for each of them. But another part of that is because while the skills are necessary for the form and integral, they're not exactly the most fun thing to develop. So hopefully y'all can understand that understand part of the reason why they're not as much fun to read, I guess, as the races, the mortals, the cities, stuff like that, or the monsters, and understand why they're like that. Now, that crap aside, because I'm sure you're all bored of listening to me talk about that, let's move on to the first of 3 segments, because I'm going to do 3 segments like I did in my last vlog. It might not be as long, but, you know, whatever. The first 3 segments that we got to cover. The first is one I've actually talked about a few times in my last vlog, and we're finally getting it into full detail. Up next, coming up immediately, because I have no idea what I'm saying right now, but let's get into the Raskithecal. So, much like Rascalon is the opposite side of the coin to Ethelinda, the Raskithecal are the opposite side of the coin to the Ithakal. Now, for those of you who remember the last vlog, or, you know, read Ethelinda's page, Rascalar's page, or the Raskithecal's page, the Raskithecal were the original group of Ithakal that Ethelinda made way the fuck back when. Now, of course, they perverted... When Ethelinda left them alone, they kind of corrupted their original intention. They were meant to protect the people around them like the Ithakal do now, but they came to the conclusion that the best way to protect somebody is to rule them, to be in control of everything, to conquer them. And of course, Ethelinda didn't hold to this, and eventually sealed them away. Now, for the Ithakal and the Raskithecal, what they are is very central to their being. That need to protect the others through their various means. It is central to them. Being unable to do so is very hard on them, almost physically painful. So being cut off from the rest of the world like that was torture for the Raskithecal. Now, of course, Ethelinda was incredibly saddened by the necessity for this, but she felt it had to be done. Now, of course, eventually, Rascalon appeared before the Raskithecal, and they joined up with her, and spent quite a few years training in the methods that Rascalon preferred to use rather than Ethelinda. Now, at the time the RPA begins, whenever that is, because it hasn't yet at the time of this, shut up, the Raskithecal have just had their seal released. They're just coming back into the world. There are areas around them, but there are little small villages and shit around them, but sorry, for those of you who don't know me from my YouTube channel, and some of you probably don't, I did a Slender the 8 Pages Let's Play a while back, and I've had a cough ever since. Now, unlike the Ithakal, who at the beginning, the area around Devorian, they control the rest of the cities around, the rest of the small villages and shit around Avorion, all willingly fall under Avorion's government command. They asked to be included into its protection and all that. The areas around Corlasir, which is the Raskithecal's hometown, it's not up yet at all. I'll probably have that up in my next vlog too. Maybe. The area around Corlasir doesn't recognize Corlasir's authority. The reason for this, the reason why I'm starting them out as not, is because when I made the Raskithecal, one thing I really wanted to do was actually make it so that players could, without having to wait on something major, on like a big major plot down the road, like war with another area, could take part in the war and conquest side of them that is kind of central to the race's concept. That way they could start with those who wanted to do military service, do plots like that, could get in on plots like that pretty much immediately by taking over the little small villages and shit around them, which hopefully will be something that players and whatnot enjoy and have a lot of fun with. Now, back to the Raskithecal. One thing I wanted to do when writing their history was make their fall from Ethelinda's graces, how they wound up with Rascalorn, something that people could understand and even sort of empathize with to a degree. So instead of just making it that they just went crazy one day and decided they wanted to conquer everyone, Ethelinda had bound them so that they wouldn't enforce their protection on people who didn't want it. But when they saw people who were outside of their jurisdiction, I guess, that were suffering but wouldn't accept their protection and help, they couldn't accept that. They couldn't just sit by. And due to the nature of the restraints placed on them, they started to take over the area around them and make it so that they had to accept their protection. Ethelinda, of course, asked them to stop, and having begun this path, they felt that they couldn't. They had to continue on it. When Ethelinda sealed them away, they were left completely without any sort of guidance. So when Rascalorn, which, not only without any sort of guidance, but without any real purpose, they couldn't do anything. There was a sort of meaninglessness to their existence. Now, when Rascalorn appeared, she promised to give them a purpose again, give them the ability to do what they felt was the reason for their existence. They, of course, jumped at the chance. Now, of course, over the years, Rascalorn turned them to her ways, made them more conquest-minded than they had been, and more unsympathetic than they would have been if she hadn't come along, I guess. But at the same time, I still wanted them to be not exactly completely sympathetic, but a race you could kind of understand why they went the way they did, and sort of want to, like Rascalorn, try to be the kind of race that you wish you could reason with, but you can't. And of course, they're kind of culturalist, not exactly racist. They don't have anything against the races in particular, but they are not accepting of other cultures. Oh, I forgot to do something in the opening. I'll get to that in a minute. Now, of course, there were one thing I wanted to do is kind of show, another thing I wanted to do is kind of show how far they'd gone through their religion. Of course, the ceremonies for Ethelinda, as covered in the Raskithecal page, were very peaceful things. Celebrating that they were able to defend their lands, or just kind of making sure that, just kind of showing that they were ready to defend their lands. The ceremonies for the Raskithecal in favor of Raskithecal are, of course, either a bit more violent in nature, or for one are a bit more violent in nature, but for the other one are more sorrowful. The primary one, of course, is the whole celebration of conquest thing, where they basically take over, where they basically show that they've taken over, and show their new control over their over the territory they just conquered, either by forcing the territory's leaders to publicly recognize their authority, or show their control by executing them when they refuse. And then burning all their damn trappings either way. And of course, the post-battle ceremony for any fight, not just taking over a new territory, is a mourning of the dead in a way. I'm not quite sure where I'm going, what I'm trying to say here. The basic idea for that was to show that they're more vicious, more ruthless, more violent than they were than the Ithacol under Ethelinda, but at the same time show that they do care about their soldiers, that they do care about the people around them. They're not just mindless shock troopers. I also did this a bit with their culture, because they do accept anyone who's willingly joins their military, and they don't treat them as a lesser thing. They, just because they came from another culture into theirs, they treat them very much as an equal. Fucking hell. My computer likes to do this thing, but the screen dims. Now, the last thing I really want to cover with the Raskithecal is their appearance. Of course, they're more serpentine in nature than the regular Ithacol. Now, if you remember, Ethelinda pretty much converted the Ithacol from human into their current state in a matter of about maybe 5 seconds. The Raskithecal were created a bit differently. They had deceased, were dead, and when Ethelinda revived them, their bodies changed with it. Of course, they got the serpent tail, but because Ethelinda is the immortal of serpents, among other things, their bodies were changed even more, to be closer to the serpent than the human. The scales on their bodies, and of course the snakes for the hair. So I guess while you could say the Ethelinda are based more off the Lamia type of half-human, half-snake creature, the Raskithecal are based more off the Gorgon type of half-snake, half-human creature. Now, one last thing I'm going to cover right quick is the shit. What was it? What the fuck was it? I'm sorry, my brain just shut down. Okay, there we go. The last thing I wanted to cover was their views on outsiders. Now, individual Raskithecal, for various reasons, scouting, information gathering, stuff like that, will occasionally break off from the main group and go traveling. Now, when encountering other cultures as a group, the Raskithecal are at best a dick, and at best completely violent and initiating hostilities without even giving a second thought. On their own, they're still pretty arrogant and dismissive and outright insulting, but less prone to violence, largely because they're smart enough to realize that if they just start trying to take over a city by themselves, they're probably just going to get slaughtered. But at first, when writing them, my initial notion was that they didn't break off, but then I realized there are going to be players who want to show a Raskithecal among other cultures on their own without the army backing them up. Probably. And I did want to give them an outlet, but in order to do that, I had to talk about how the Raskithecal would behave on their own among other races. Is there anything else I want to cover with them? Don't think so. I think that's it. I'm pretty sure that's it for the Raskithecal. If not, I'll probably just cover them among another vlog later on. Now, before we move on to the next vlog, there is something I promised to do, and I meant to do it earlier on in this video, but let's get on. Now's a good time since I forgot earlier. Roxy, come here. Come here. Come here. Takes her a bit to wake up. Come on. Now, of course you got, come on. Roxy, come on. Come on. Hey. Getting her up here sometimes can be a right pain. Come on. Come on. Come on. Ah, here we are. Come on. Oh, jeez, get off my coat. Oh, God. Come on. She doesn't want to get up here. This is so weird. Hold on. I apologize. Usually she's a lot more willing to get up in my lap than this. Roxy! Roxy! What are you doing, you dopey animal? Come on! Come on! Come on! Okay, we're just going to do it this way. Ugh. There you go. Say hi to the camera, Roxy. Yeah, this is my American Bulldog, Roxy. She looks absolutely depressed and pathetic, but trust me, she's not. She's a good girl. And as you can see, she's absolutely massive. 80 pounds of dog. And honestly, if I give her half an invitation, she will be all the way in my lap. Oh, big yawns. One more thing I want to cover, right quick actually, is that, oh, kisses, thank you. The last episode I talked about King Cobra bites. I kind of wanted to show what I was talking about there when I said that they just kind of are chewing rather than biting. Now, if I can get this, if I can get my lazy animal here worked up, she'll be happy to help me demonstrate. Roxy, come on. She's not willing to demonstrate. What can I say? She does shed like a motherfucker, though. Okay. Well, sleepy puppy. She's a good girl. My coat. Damn it. With that, you might wonder why I'm wearing the coat. It's pretty cold in my house, and partly it's also a trademark I developed on my YouTube channel. Whenever I appear, my own personal YouTube channel, whenever I appear in, on screen, I tend to wear some kind of coat. It used to be a navy, green military coat, but with the dropping weather and the other things, I wound up switching to this. But with that, I'm actually going to wrap this segment up, because we're not even talking about the Raskithecal anymore. She's a good girl. So we're going to move over to the next segment, which is the Ksamknai. Ksamknai? You'll see the name and the thing right there at the bottom of the picture and the segment transition. You fucking know what I mean, damn it. Okay, this is embarrassing. Okay, let's just move on to the next segment. Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about is the Ksamknai, I don't fucking know how to pronounce that word. Yes, I named them, and I don't know how to pronounce their names. Ha 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 ha. Yeah, it's one of those. Ksamknai. We'll just go with Ksamknai for now, okay? If something else comes up or someone knows how to actually can come up with a better pronunciation for that, yay! But, as you can see probably by looking at their picture, they're pretty freaking weird looking, all rotten and torn apart and tentacly, and dang them some nice teeth. Now, when making, honestly, the entire inspiration for this monster came out of that image right there. I'm not kidding. Yeah, I found it while I was browsing DeviantArt one day, and I was thinking, hey, that'd be a pretty sweet monster right there. Now, of course, that'd be a history to go along with it, why they look that fucked up, all that. Uh, so, now of course Ethelinda is the immortal of snakes. Now normally that kind of thing, this kind of creature would fall under her provenance, but I didn't want... Ethelinda's not the kind of person who would make monsters, especially not monsters like the Ksamknai. So what I did was originally just have them be this huge race of snakes. I mean, like 40 freaking feet, okay? Big. And that were a favorite of Ethelinda. Now, the immortal Lysira, who I haven't covered yet, and I'll talk about her later, is the immortal of toxin and pestilence and other bad things. And when she when she was working on the island of Raskithecal, one moment, the island of Raskithecal, okay, and Ethelinda stopped her plans, and in revenge, Lysira corrupted the Ksamknai, and of course with the parasite that pretty much took them over. Now, when I was making the Ksamknai, one thing I wanted to do was I didn't want to have this terrifying monster that's just there because it's evil and it's there. I wanted to make not only a reason for its existence, but a sort of reason that made one kind of pity them. Because one thing I don't always quite buy is some of the most fearsome looking monsters, that have that are just rotten looking and diseased looking and just generally look like they shouldn't even be alive. I never quite buy that those creatures are evil just because they are. I mean, okay, maybe it's a good visual shorthand, whatever. But I wanted to make it so that they were, how to put this? Sorry. Because I wanted to make it that they were more, that this one had more of a reason for its existence. And if I could, make it kind of sympathetic. And I did that by making them originally be docile, fairly peaceful race that mostly lived off fish. And after the parasite infected them, they were monstrous, dangerous, violent. Now, one thing I left open is the notion of the actions being the actions of the parasite rather than the Ksamknai itself. Part of the reason I did this is so that later on, if there was an interest for it, I could do a storyline where they were cured of their parasite. And I'm not quite sure what the benefits for doing so for the players yet would be. One thing I actually have considered is giant sea snake water mounts, because I think that would actually be kind of cool. But or some other reward. But that kind of depends on whether or not the player base goes for it. If the monster as it is in and of itself gets popular enough, I might keep them around in some way. I'm not sure what yet. We'll have to see as the story progresses and all that. You get the idea. Now, when making their abilities, I wanted to make it so that they weren't basically just a giant sea snake that came up and tried to eat people off the deck or ripped up the ship. Of course, there is that. They got the giant fangs and the hooked tail that can rip out the bottom of your ship if you're not careful. But they've also got the venom, the acidic venom, that just kind of drips from their mouths. So that way when they bite somebody, if they somehow manage to survive the bite itself and get away, they're still probably going to die from the fact that they're being eaten by the venom. And the tentacles, now, of course, all this is just a giant footnote compared to the tentacles. My idea for when a Ksamknai attacks is that in order to really deal with it, fend it off, or kill it, you have to attack the main body. But the main body itself isn't doing most of the fighting. The main body itself is kind of just sitting there while the tentacles do most of the fighting. And of course the tentacles, while fairly brittle and easy to break, are strong enough to grab someone up and wring him out like a sponge, like a rag or a sponge. Basically just kind of, excuse me while I show off the fact that we can't be asked to clean, some of the people living in this house can't be asked to clean up, but basically just grab someone and do this number to them until everything squeezes out. It's not, go away! People need to put away their damn laundry. Now, of course, while that's fairly terrifying in and of itself, one thing I wanted to do to make them a bit more sympathetic was make it so that if it is the parasite that's doing controlling the creature itself, that there would still be some part of the Ksamknai, the original Ksamknai, in them that could still be heard, which is the origin of the cry they let out when injured that sounds like a child in pain. Now, this was sort of to reflect the actual innocence of the Ksamknai. They weren't originally violent creatures. They were corrupted, twisted, and brought to this state by the parasite that's taken over their bodies. And even infant Ksamknai are born. New Ksamknai are born with this parasite. So you can't just somehow capture two Ksamknai, breed them, and get a pure one without the parasite. So if I do wind up going the Cure the Ksamknai route, it would be an interesting little plotline figuring out how to do it. How the players would figure out how to do it and all that. Because it wouldn't just be the waters around Raskithecal or the island of Raskithecal itself. It would probably wind up spanning the entirety of Western or Eastern Idalos at least. Now the Ksamknai as a whole, I don't have that much to say about them. They're one of the first two monsters we've developed. And now of course there will be more later. And there's really not much you could say about a wild animal that you can't really play with or interact with at this point. As time goes on, I'll probably talk more about them as they start showing up in the RP. But for now, that's pretty much all I got to say on the Ksamknai. What are you doing? Dog just started licking my ankle. But for now, I'm going to end this segment off, and hopefully y'all enjoy hopefully all the players watching this enjoy the notion of fighting one of those and are eager to do so, because I'll be happy to set you up. In the meantime, let's move on to our final segment of the day, the immortal Ilaren. Right there. Okay, our last topic to cover for the day is the immortal Ilaren. Now, Ilaren is the immortal of lightning, sound, brawling, and alcohol. Probably not your usual mix, but I wanted to do someone that was pretty much in control of some of the most loud and let's see how to cover this. Disruptive elements. The kind of person that would the most loud and disruptive things that I could really think of at the time. Now, of course, there's a bit more depth to that. She's just not loud and brash and chaotic and getting into drunken bar brawls all the time. Although she does do her share of that. Probably more than her share of that, you know. Got to set an example for everyone. But it's not really gotten into yet in her profile. And I'm not going to get into it here because it's supposed to be a plot line for later on down in the RP. But it is mentioned that she disappeared for a while after the Great Shattering, where the original 8 shattered and the humans first appeared on Idalos and all that happy jazz. Now, of course, what happened that during that period is going to come into light later, but when she came back, she was, at first, on the surface, just as cheerful and... voice crack. On the surface, she was just as cheerful and loud and boisterous and generally happy and friendly as she had been. And it didn't really take to making a race of her own like some of the others did. Didn't revive any dead people. But what she did do was wind up gathering a group of followers that are loyal to her, but they're just regular humans. Sorry, my neck's got a bit of crack in it right now. But of course, underneath the surface, there's a layer of an intense sorrow to her, like something happened and she isn't going to ever get over it. Of course, that that will be gone into later. I'm not going to go into detail right now. But when the war between the Immortals broke out, she is one of the most passionate about defending the mortals of Idalos from the Immortals that would see them all killed off. Part of the reason I went that route with her, instead of making her just someone who's loud and noisy and destructive, is because usually when you get a lightning-based deity or one that's in charge of drinking or sound or even brawling, they tend to be incredibly violent, destructive, the kind of person that's incredibly dangerous to be around, and usually doesn't mean that well. So of course being me, I wanted to do something a bit that hadn't quite been done along those lines, but still fit with that. Still fit the themes of of her spheres of influence. Now, of course, as the Immortal of Brawling, whenever Ilaren gets into a fight, I cannot quite remember her name today. I swear, I am not. I feel all the way awake, but it appears I'm not. Now, whenever Ilaren gets into a fight as the Immortal of Brawling, she doesn't, bring weapons to the table. She pretty much she uses her natural abilities to fight. She doesn't bring weapons to it, using wrestling, boxing, kickboxing, martial arts, whatever, in her fights, augmented by her lightning powers or her control over sound. And now, of course, as the Immortal of Brawling, she's pretty much one of the best and the best brawlers there's going to be. It's what she does, what she is. And then, of course, being augmented by lightning and sound, she's not, just entirely someone who is just going to wail at you with, fists and feet or try to grapple you. She's not stupid about it either. She is actually intelligent. It's just not immediately evident. Now, of course, also, one thing usually done with Lightning Immortals and all that is that they're usually younger than the others, by quite a bit. But I decided I didn't want to go quite that route, instead make her one of the oldest, alongside, created around the same time as some of the others like Ethelinda, as opposed to some of them like Raskithecal or Trade, the Ice Immortal. Now at the time of writing, I don't really have any details on Ilaren's followers worked out. I don't even have a city for them on the map. Need to do that. Which, actually, come to think of it, will probably be done almost immediately after this video, so yay! But it'll be on or around the main peak in Central Idalos, which I can't remember the name of right now. Ava's Peak or something like that. I don't know. I might make that group Servant of Ava and just set them around one of the other areas in Central. I don't know right now. Yeah. This past week, as you might be able to tell, wasn't exactly quite the creative splurge it was before I did the first vlog. I've spent time doing skills and shit like that, and this past Wednesday just fucking sucked. But hopefully you all found all this interesting, and sorry there's not quite as much in-depth detail for some of these as there was for Ethelinda, the Raskithecal and Ilaren. But you know, I tried to make I tried to make it interesting. Ilaren pretty much went up last night. She hasn't even been up for 12 hours yet. Well, yeah, probably around 12 hours now, but still. But one plan, I'm going to talk about one idea I do have for her right quick, is in addition to the plot line regarding her history, one thing I've got nailed out that's not quite talked about in her profile, but will become more apparent as the RP goes on, is that Ilaren absolutely, purely and without any inhibitions about it, hates Lysira and Chamadarst, respectively the immortals of Pestilence and Neutrality. That, of course, will be covered more into detail, but one plot I'd like to do is a big conflict between small groups of their followers, where they basically all just get together and it's a mass fight. Hopefully, players go for that kind of thing. We'll have to see how it goes in time. Now, of course, there's going to be a bit between when the RP starts and when some of these plots get going. A long time in the case of stuff like the Zanai plot, the snake thing. But for some of them, there will be hardly any time at all, like the plot for the Raskithecal. You'll have to bear with us as we get that going for y'all. But fucking voice cracks, man. In the meantime, I'm gonna wrap this vlog up here because they're long as fuck, and I just don't really have anything else to say right now. In the meantime, though, this has been Basilisk. I hope y'all are really enjoying standing trials and have a lot of fun with the site. If y'all are wanting to do something, and yes, I know these are all recorded before the RP actually starts, but by the time most people are gonna be watching this, it'll be after the site starts. So if you're all looking to do a plot of some sort and you're in one of my regions, hit me up. I'll be more than happy to work something out with you. In the meantime, this is Basilisk, and I will see you all in my next update. Later, folks.